With me in the studio is columnist, feminist, social commentator Jamila Rizvi. She's the author of a book called Not Just Lucky. Jamila, good afternoon.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Okay, so I've read a summary of your book. You seem to say that we should bring girls up differently, that we should not train them to be too nice. What did you mean by that?
Well, niceness is a nice quality to have. I'm absolutely not trying to start a war on being nice to one another. But what I've tried to do in this book is make the point that we raise girls to think niceness is the most important thing. And often we teach them to please others, and that can come at the expense of pleasing themselves.
Were you raised that way?
I think to an extent. I certainly, I'm not here to have a go at mum and dad. Mum and dad, if you're listening, I think you did a great job. But yeah, I think I was. And I think little girls very much are conditioned to want to be liked and to want to be liked above everything else. And we're often taught to be competitive in a way that we sort of suppress our competition, whereas I think little boys are raised with a much healthier sense of competitiveness that can be friendly as well.
And do you think this somehow disadvantages women in later life?
I do. I think it actually helps them at school, right? Because schooling environments, educational environments, they reward the kid that sits down, shuts up, does the right thing, works to the test, behaves nicely, behaves well. But once you get out of school, the workplace values very different qualities. And I think we're really seeing that in the data, right? Girls do better at school, they go to university in greater numbers, they graduate in greater numbers with higher degrees, and then they hit the workforce and literally year one in the workforce.
Okay, can I, 96900 693 13 13 32, my own observation is men are probably bigger risk takers. And by that I mean, you know, there's the risk you take being an entrepreneur, but even when it comes to going for a job, a man is more likely to stick his hand up and say, yep, I can do that, and you should pay me $150,000 a year because I'm worth it. And whereas, even though he's probably not qualified to actually do it, whereas women either wait to be asked, or if they feel that they're perhaps not quite qualified for the job, they won't apply for it in the first place.
You could have helped me write this book, Tom.
Well, but is it possible that men and women are just on average inherently a bit different?
Well, I talked to a bunch of social scientists, psychologists, neurologists for this book, and their argument is kind of no. While there are some hormonal differences, sure, and testosterone does play some role in that risk-taking stuff, for the most part, the male and female brain are overwhelmingly similar at birth. They change over time.
Why do we have other books like Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus? And is that just nonsense you're saying?
Well, I think men are from Mars and women are from Venus because they've been brought up to be from different planets, not because they live or were born on different planets.
Okay. So, all right, I mean, I'm a father. I've got a 7.5-year-old daughter, and I'm like most dads, sort of peering into the darkness and how to bring her up properly. What do you think parents, either mums or dads, should do differently with their daughters to try and, you know, change this state of affairs?
I think it's about questioning our own behaviour as parents. And this isn't about just the kind of, you know, don't dress your little girl in pink, girls play with dolls, boys plays with truck stuff. It goes deeper than that, right? So just remember that 90% of a human brain development happens in the first 5 years of life,
yes,
which is terrifying. I'm a parent of a 2-year-old, and that is a terrifying fact, right? Little boys and girls pick up so much
terrifying that you're a parent, or terrifying that their brains develop?
Both. Terrifying that what I'm doing has such an impact on him, I suppose. Little boys and little girls see everything their parents do. So my little boy clocks, for example, that mummy drives the car, driving is important. Daddy drives the car, driving is important. But when we're all in the car together, dad tends to drive. A little brain picks up on that stuff, and there's little subtle nuances to how we live our lives that send these messages to kids.
So, for example, I don't let my wife drive my car.
Yeah, that's probably not a helpful one.
Because she'll damage it. Is that sending a bad message to my daughter?
Well, as long as you let the daughter drive the car when she's 17.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
All right,
then I think it is a bad message.
Okay, so what you're saying is there's not that much inherent difference between men and women. It's really the way we bring boys and girls up. And if you're correct in saying the first 5 years is crucial, then really it's those preschool years into maybe prep and probably grade 1. That's where the damage is done. So, all right, I mean, what do? Is it adults setting a better example or a different example? Is it selection of toys or activities? What are some of the practical things?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of how we bring up our kids, it's about approaching boys and girls in a really similar way and saying, what's the kind of person that I want to raise? What are the qualities I want in a person, rather than trying to project gender biases onto little kids. So for me, that means as a little boy, when my kid was born, when he was a newborn, my parents came into the room and my dad's like, that kid's going to play for Carlton. Look at his kick. I mean, he's a newborn. He can't kick anything, right? I really try and focus with little boys on, you're so kind, you're such a good sharer, focusing on traits that aren't necessarily considered masculine traits. And with little girls, I try and do the opposite.
It's funny you say that. I mean, everybody in my family is a Carlton supporter too, and
I'm not, by the way.
Aren't you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm in a mixed marriage, Collingwood and Carlton together. It's very sad.
It can work, though. I've seen proof of it. It can work.
We're 2 years in. We'll see how it goes.
But, for example, when the Women's AFL League started at the start of this year, my daughter turned to me and said, oh, does that mean I can play for Carlton? And I said, well, yes, you can. So in that sense, I immediately went from being a sceptic of women's AFL to thinking, you know what, this actually might work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just as important, though, is strong female role models for boys as well. We always talk about these strong women role models for little girls, but little boys need to see women kicking butt too.